Welcome. In this video series, we're going to look at quadratic equations and different methods on how to solve them. And so there are a variety of techniques we are going to be able to use. So we're going to be able to solve them via factoring, which we've already kind of seen. And then we're going to use a square root method and also the quadratic formula. So in this first video, we're just going to define what is a quadratic equation and look at solving them using factoring methods. And so when we talk about a quadratic expression, an expression is something that doesn't have an equal sign, right? There's no other side of the equation. And so it's just something where we have ax squared plus bx plus c, okay? And a, b, and c are just function as constants. So we're going to see numbers there, right? And it could be that some of them are 1, and that is going to be okay. When we take an expression, set it equal to a number, or in particular 0, right, then we get a quadratic equation. So most of our work today, or in these videos, are going to be dealing with quadratic equations. And so we can rearrange it so that 0 is on one side of the equation and everything else is on the other. That's always our goal to get these things started, okay? And when we work on solving that, when we say solve, find the value of x, right? We want to find all values that satisfy that equation, and one technique we can use is factoring, and we've worked on factoring before today. So for instance, we look at this first one, and we might try several factoring methods. We could try AC method, we could try grouping doesn't work, GCF doesn't work, but if we do guess and check, right, we know that the first terms have to multiply to this leading term, so x squared, so that would be x times x, and then the last terms have to multiply to 6. I'm going to guess a 2 and a 3, and then if we remember the signs, right, this last sign indicates that they're both the same sign, previous sign indicates that they're both minuses. Okay, and we can set that equal to 0. And we know how to solve this, right? We can use the zero product property, which says if we have two things that multiply to 0, then each one has to equal 0 independently. And so we set these each equal to 0 and solve, and we would get x is equal to 2 or x is equal to 3. Okay, that's our first one. All right. Next one, the 3c minus, or is equal to 10c minus 8. So again, we want to move everything to the same side of the equation, right? So we want to do that always first. So we're going to move the 10c over to the left side and the 8 over to the other side, changing the signs as we do that. And now I'm going to try the AC method. So again, this 3 is our A, negative 10x is our b, and 8 is our c. So I'm going to go off to the side here and say, okay, a times c is 24, which is p times q, and I'm trying to find p and q. And then b is negative 10, and that should equal p plus q. Okay, so I need to think of two numbers that satisfy these conditions, and I think, say, a -6 and a -4 would fit the bill, right? Because those add to negative 10 and they multiply to 24. So again, what I'm going to do with the AC method is take that middle term, 10c, and split it into -6c, and then -4c, and then plus 8. Okay, and then I do factoring by grouping, so chunk the first set, and this pull out the GCF from there, so that'd be 3c and then c minus 2, and then chunk the next two, and I could pull out a 4, but if I do that, I still have a minus here, and I want to, or I have a plus and I want a minus, so let's pull out a -4, and that's going to be give me c minus 2. And then now I can factor further and say this is c minus 2, right? Because each of the terms that we have now after we grouped have a c minus 2 in common. And then we have 3c minus 4 equals 0. And then now I'm in the same place as I just was, so I'd have c minus 2 equals 0, or 3c minus 4 equals 0, and so then solving I get c is equal to 2, or c is equal to 4 over 3 after you move the 4 over and divide by 3. All right. Okay, so I've solved 2. We've talked about factoring. I want you to pause the video, try and factor each of these last examples, and resume the video when you're ready to see the factoring and then also the solution. And here we go. So the first one was a difference of squares. That was a factor pattern, right? So um, I saw, this thing was 2p squared, and the 9 was 3 squared, right? So then I can use difference of squares factor pattern, solve that. Next one, GCF is m, so I pull that out, and then now I have a product, right? Set each factor of that product equal to 0 and solve. Okay, so one way to solve a quadratic equation that we've already kind of seen, right, is to solve it using factoring methods. The next video will introduce another technique.